Ja Morant, a guard for the Grizzlies, was fined $35,000 because he got angry at a referee and didn't leave the court in a timely manner after he was kicked out of Wednesday's game against the Timberwolves. With 1:22 left in the fourth quarter, Morant got a technical foul and was kicked out. In the 109-101 loss, he scored 24 points. Dillon Brooks of the Grizzlies was also thrown out. Grizzlies star Ja Morant fined $35,000 for ejection after implying officials have too much power. After getting kicked out of Wednesday's 109-101 loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, Memphis Grizzlies point guard Ja Morant was fined $35,000. This was because he confronted and used inappropriate language toward a game official and did not leave the court in a timely manner. Morant was almost immediately thrown out of the game for whatever he said to the official, while Timberwolves guard Anthony Edwards nodded and smiled as he got ready to shoot free throws. A broadcaster asked, "Did he get thrown out for one technical foul?" After the call, Morant kept talking to the official and walked around the court with other Memphis players to say goodbye to Edwards. He then left the court. The ejection seemed to surprise the Grizzlies. On his way out, he smiled and laughed and clapped. Morant made it clear after the game that he doesn't think he should have been kicked out. He put a picture from the game on his Instagram story and wrote, "Too much power. If you tell an MF the same thing they told you, you get kicked out." It's not clear what Morant and the official talked about. In the last quarter, Morant wasn't the only player to be taken out of the game. Even worse, his wasn't the only one during that minute. A few seconds before Morant's technical, Grizzlies teammate Dillon Brooks was also kicked out of the game for talking to an official after being called for a foul against Edwards. With 4 technical fouls this season, Morant is tied for 9th in the NBA. In 34 minutes of play, he scored 24 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, passed the ball 6 times, and stole 2 balls. The Grizzlies had the second-best regular season record in the NBA last year, which was led by Morant. With the 13-9 record, they are in 4th place in the Western Conference. Now we look at some of the heftiest fines in the NBA, beginning with fines for celebrations. First, LeBron James' big balls, $15K, Jimmy Butler's hump, $15K, and Dwayne Wade's cutthroat, $25K. Last year, one of the few bright spots for the purple and gold was their 124-116 win over the Indiana Pacers. LeBron James kept things going all night and finished with 39 points. James walked back to the other end of the court in a strange way after making a three-pointer that gave his team a 6-point lead with more than a minute left. The man did a version of the big ball celebration dance. The commentators for the Pacers was quick to notice James's funny moves. Of course, the NBA always has its sights set on the king. They gave him a fine of $15,000. Fans learned about the history of the taunt from James' dance since the famous guard Sam Cassell came up with it first. Kobe Bryant, Klay Thompson, Fred VanVleet, and Jameer Nelson were among those who did the same thing, so James paid tribute to all the great ballers who came before him. He probably knew he would have to pay a fine, but $15,000 won't even make a dent in his wallet. The funny thing about this is that Jimmy Butler wasn't even on the floor when he started celebrating. He was sitting on the sidelines in casual clothes while he got better from an injury. Because of these details, Butler might have thought that there would be no cameras on him and that he could get away with whatever he wanted. He didn't know that the NBA always has a camera on the star player of each team. Butler also has one of the NBA's most interesting personalities. The man is easy to sell. The second funny thing about the situation is that Butler blamed head coach Eric Spoelstra for the $15,000 fine he got from the NBA. Butler says that Spo tells them to celebrate the success of their teammates. Butler was just doing what his coach told him to do. History doesn't remember Dwayne Wade's time with the Chicago Bulls because it didn't live up to high expectations. But Wade did have some great times with the team from his hometown. One of them was when he was fined $25,000 by the NBA for a rough way to celebrate. The party looks like a lot of fun, but the NBA doesn't like cool. All they want their players to do is play basketball. Wade, being a good person, apologized right away for what he had done. Next up, Gerald Green's trigger finger, $25K, Dwight Howard finger tongue, $35K, and Dikembe Mutombo's finger wag, $5K every time. The way Green celebrated was the same as what Wade did. Before that, he took out his imaginary gun and started shooting at the Wizards bench. Green shot his gun twice as a way to celebrate. He did a lot of crazy things, so the NBA fined him $25,000 for making menacing gestures. Green's feelings got the best of him. To be clear, he joined the Heat in the 2015-16 NBA season, which was their second season without LeBron James, so the team and the whole city felt like they had something to prove. Green was just pumped up by how much the crowd and his team wanted to win. Dwight Howard is one of the most ridiculous NBA players ever. The league really likes likes it when players show more of who they are, but as always, everything has its limits. Players can't just celebrate by making obscene gestures that the crowd can't see. It would be interesting to know why Howard stuck his tongue out at the Cavs fans in that way. Is he against them? They had been bothering Dwight the whole game, or did something that happened after hours last night suddenly come back to Dwight's mind? No matter what, Howard's finger-tongue celebration belongs on the long list of funny things he has done. Other players on this list were only fined once, but Dikembe Mutombo was fined every time he did the finger wag, which was his signature celebration. The NBA, and especially David Stern, who was the NBA commissioner at the time, wanted Mutombo to stop making his little joke, but Mutombo kept on doing it. In the end, the NBA let the famous shot blocker keep playing as long as he didn't point his finger at his opponents, but at the fans. If you didn't know players were fined for celebrating, now you know. Next, we have some of the heftiest fines dished out in the league. From the third, New York Knicks and Denver Nuggets, participation in a brawl, $500,000 each. But with 1:15 left and Denver up by 9, Knicks guard Marty Collins fouled Nuggets guard J.R. Smith on the fast break by slapping Smith's neck with his arms, making Smith fall to the ground. As soon as he got up, he and Collins started arguing, and Nate Robinson of Denver started yelling at Smith and tried to hit him. Smith then tackled Robinson into the seats on the side of the court, and the two players had to be pulled apart. Just as it looked like the fighting was about to end, Carmelo Anthony of New York suddenly punched Collins in the face, knocking him down. Jared Jeffries and Robinson then followed Anthony as he went back to the Nuggets bench, but coaches and teammates stopped them. Because of what happened, all 10 players who were on the court at the time of the fight were kicked off. After that, 7 players were banned from playing for a total of 47 games and lost more than $1.2 million in pay. Worse, each team had to pay a huge fine of $500,000. Next, Mark Cuban, Dallas, criticism of NBA officiating, $500,000. Mark Cuban was fined $250,000 for making negative comments about NBA officials twice. The first time was in 2001 after his team, the Dallas Mavericks, lost to the Detroit Pistons 107-104. He made fun of the officials and dared the league to punish him. The Mavs owner was angry that a goaltending violation hadn't been called against the Pistons, even though a replay showed that a Pistons player's hand had touched the rim while the ball was in the air. To make things even worse, Cuban stopped the replay on the Jumbotron and had photographers take pictures of it. The second fine of $250,000 was given to the dot-com billionaire after Game 5 of the NBA Finals in 2006. The penalty was actually for a number of bad things that officials had done. Some of these things were walking onto the court to talk to an official, yelling at David Stern and a group of league executives from the stands, and using bad language with reporters after a game. In between those two huge fines, in 2002, the NBA gave Cuban the most expensive fine it had ever given to the owner of a team. The Mavericks owner was very outspoken and said that referees didn't do anything about Tim Duncan's traveling violations. Cuban was also said to have said this about Ed Rush, who is the director of officials for the NBA. Ed Rush may have been a great referee, but I wouldn't hire him to run a Dairy Queen. Cuban was fined $500,000 for those words. Rumor has it, though, that the fine was so big because Cuban used several F-bombs to insult David Stern behind closed doors. Finally, Minnesota Timberwolves circumvention of the salary cap, $3,500,000. The goal of the NBA salary cap was to level the playing field so that rich teams couldn't get all the best players. As expected, some teams have found ways to get around the rule in order to make the strongest teams possible, but not many of these ways have been found. In 2000, it was found that the Minnesota Timberwolves had broken the rules about salary caps, and the league made sure to make an example of them. Kevin McHale, the Timberwolves executive, was caught promising Joe Smith a multi-million-dollar deal in the future if the power forward agreed to sign with the team for less than the market value. That would give the team a little room to move players around in the near future. When the secret deal was found out, the last year of Smith's contract was canceled, 3 of Minnesota's first-round picks were taken away, and the team was fined $3.5 million, which was the most expensive fine in NBA history. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. What did you think of these fines? Did we miss a big one? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Till next time, cheers!